Hello everyone, and welcome to the Africam Show. I'm so glad to be able to spend the next 45 minutes with a little escape into the African wilds and spend time with all of you, of course, because the weather is pretty terrible where I am. I hope that it's better where you are, and of course, across our cameras here. We will have, I hope we see some really nice weather in the low veld where the majority of our cameras are. Even though winters are cold, they are dry, unlike where I'm sitting. Now it looks like we are a little bit stuck here at the Boma, at the Hoedspruit Endangered Species Center, where our wonderful rhino friends live. Looks like they are all there. I know we're looking at something that's stuck at the moment, but it's still a wonderful image. And don't worry, we'll get it sorted in a moment. Maybe move over to one of our other cams as soon as we can. And remember that we've got Esme, Mango, Bula, Taba, and Peter who frequent this Boma. And then, of course, Millie and Licorice as well, the two petty sheep that help them along. As usual, we are live and interactive, which means you can send through questions and comments. Tell me how you're doing, what you're doing. You can even tell me about the weather where you are. Whatever it is, you know that I love to get to know all of you as much as I love to get to know the animals. Ooh, you know how I don't like to choose favorites. You know that. But I promise you, getting to know all of you is just as exciting as getting to know our animal friends too. Well, while we deal with the technical difficulties, let's go through some hellos. Casper's Third Ghost says, "Good Tuesday, Trishana. Severe storms." Ooh, and Casper's Third Ghost is in Milwaukee. So I hope that you'll be safe and warm. But you've got some hot coffee brewing, you say, so I'm sure you'll be just fine. But do stay safe and let us know how the storm went next time we chat to you, maybe on Thursday, for Wild Moments. Bird Book says, hi Bird Book, thank you for joining us. Rolling Trouble has made her way in as well and says, hi Trishala from a wet Washington. And of course you've got your coffee and your water. Dear NC says, hello from Seattle, and you're ready with your coffee. Nice. Oh, and Amberco, of course, Amberco. I love when Amberco sent, well, I love when all of you send through messages, but Amberco's always give so much appreciation and smiles. Amberco says, happy Tuesday to all, a heartfelt thanks, and to everybody who brings us this special time every week. And you're waving hello, and you're sending me and the Africam team thanks, and you're ready with a happy heart and coffee today. Really nice. Really nice. One of my favorite things about being out in the wild and actually being able to do these shows with you, even though we're looking at a stuck image at the moment, but like I said, we're attending to it. But one of my favorite things about the wilderness, not even the wilderness, but just being out in nature, is that somehow, no matter what, it makes me feel better. Even if something's not wrong, or I'm not feeling sad or negative in any way, but it just kind of perks me up. And I really hope that it does the same thing for you guys too. Now, I'm really hoping that I'll have the opportunity to visit all the animals in this Boma. I know this sounds a little ridiculous, but obviously I'd be really excited to meet Esme, Mango, Taba, Bula, and of course Peter. But I'm super excited to visit Millie and Licorice. I feel like they are, they just have such an interesting role. In fact, the image in my head is that I'd go up to them with a little mic and just interview Millie and Licorice and figure out what they think of their job, how's it been going. Of course, I am unlikely to get any response from them, but it's a dream nonetheless. And I'll actually be going up to the low veld very soon. In about 10 days, I'm hoping to pass by the Hoodspray Endangered Species Center. Maybe if we have some time, stop over and actually see the characters in person. I think that's, our cameras offer such a wonderful window into Africa and African wildlife from anywhere in the world. But I can imagine that it's frustrating because as much as it is a wonderful thing, oh, we have some movement, yay. As much as it is a wonderful thing to have this type of escape, there's always this nagging feeling of wanting to come here and see it for yourself and wanting to meet the animal characters that we get to know so well. It started off for me with the Africams, that is, with Monty Python at Rosie's Pan. That was the character that I really wanted to meet in person. It's a shame that old Monty has not made a reappearance on the cameras, but I really wanted to meet that snake in person. And now I really want to meet Peter, Mango Bula Taba, and Esme as well, of course, Millie and Licorice. You know, the other one that I would really like to meet is the striped hyena at Old Donio. Anyway, enough of me rambling. It seems like we're just gonna reboot for a few seconds and we'll be back just now. And I'll see you then. So stay tuned. Please don't go anywhere. Yay, and we're back, everybody. Our apologies for that. The couple minutes we had that we were offline, but we are back, and we're back in the Boma at the Hoodspray Endangered Species Center. Yes. Now, when I last left you, just before I told you all that we're going to give some love and attention to our tech equipment, I was saying that I was really hoping that I could go up and see these guys. And just, casually drive past like those people have. Anyway, maybe if you hopped on late and you weren't sure what was happening, you're watching the Africam Show, of course, and we had a little difficulty earlier, but we're back and we are live and interactive, so you can keep on sending through those questions and those comments. And we were just chatting before, in the first kind of like 7 minutes, we were just chatting about meeting the characters and how wonderful the cams are for us to be able to have this window into African wildlife, but how much we really would love to actually be there and see them and meet them. And that's, something about having a consistent spot that you can watch, particularly for animals like these 5 that are in a boma. So you know that these are the specific individuals that you're watching. But also, if you're watching an area, a specific area for territorial animals, you're bound to see the same ones coming through. And it almost feels like you're meeting a celebrity when you get to meet them in person, finally. And I'm going to make an effort. To see these guys. Anyway, we have a whole lot of hellos coming through and some comments. Mary Momo says, hello, Trishala, from a very wet Hot Springs, Arkansas. You're ready for whatever comes our way with your 40-ounce cup of cool and refreshing spring water. Oh, snacking on some blackberries you plucked from behind the building this morning. That sounds delightful. I love blackberries, actually. I really do. Berries in general, very good for us. As they say, full of antioxidants. Okay, that just put me on a path in my brain that I'm deciding not to take. Instead, Laura MC, good morning. Trishala and all from Texas, good morning, Laura MC. And Rolling Trouble says that she misses Monty. Yes, definitely. Monty is one of those characters, like I said earlier, that I really, really, really wanted to meet. Old Monty Python. Well, if we can head over to Rosie's Pan in a little bit, after we have a little bit of a chat about animal stuff here at the Boma, I'll tell you a little bit more about why I think Monty has not made a return to his branch. Wolfman, thank you. Wolfwoman, thank you so much. You say welcome back. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Max, for sending us over to Rosie's Pan. This is the area. In fact, before we even get into Monty particularly, this is a wonderful view of what the bush looks like right now. Very different to what we've been experiencing over the rainy season. Very dry. But it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is. It's a fact of nature. And I like all seasons in the bush, to be honest. The dry season tends to be very, very cold, especially in those morning game drives when you don't have a windshield. It can be very, very, very cold. And I actually love experiencing the change of season in the bush. Now, if we could have a look in Monty's honor at Monty's branch, that would be really nice, since there's nothing happening at the actual water hole here at Rosie's Pan. Let's see if we're able to. One of the things that I had been discussing with, I wouldn't say a friend, it's not somebody I know very well, but somebody who happens to be a herpetologist. And he sent me quite a few papers, and we chatted a little bit about Monty's behavior. And he said to me, and it's something that we have spoken about too, that younger snakes, and this actually goes for other animals as well, but the younger they are, the riskier they tend to be, and the less the less they care about their energy expenditure, particularly risk versus reward. As they get older, that kind of knowledge, whether something is risky, whether it's worth the effort, that kind of knowledge gets ingrained, but it happens over time and over experience. It's not the type of thing, I mean, if you think about us, it's not the type of thing that your parent can say to you, that's not worth it because it takes too much energy. You know, when you're a teenager, you're not going to listen to that kind of thing. It's something that comes with experience. Oh, there's Monty's branch right there. Now, I suspect, so Monty was not, there was one time when we saw this python move into Rosie's pan and have a swim. And it was at that point, I think it was during Wild Moments with Taylor, that we were trying to determine how long Monty is. Now, that's particularly important for reptiles. So to determine maturity, not age, but maturity, we use the snout to vent length. So that basically means from the snout to where the tail joins the body. And that's because maturity in reptiles is strongly correlated with that length, as opposed to just how old they are, like with mammals. You know, with mammals, you could get a small leopard that's very petite, but she could still be sexually mature when the time comes. But with reptiles, it's a little bit different, and we use that snout to vent length as a determination. And we thought, that time with Taylor and I during Wild Moments, we thought that he looked like he was at least 1.5 meters. I kind of threw out perhaps 2 meters there, but I feel that was a little bit generous. Now, African pythons reach maturity at about 2 meters. Now, of course, that's not set in stone. It's just kind of around 2 meters they reach maturity. So what I think has happened with Monty Python is that he's actually reached maturity and is no longer investing the amount of energy that he did getting on this branch and hunting birds. And I suspect that the way it started in the first place, and I must say it's not unusual for pythons to be in trees. They often are. I had a wonderful sighting of a python in a tree. Must have been, everything feels like it happened a couple of weeks ago, but it must have been about a year ago now. It's a great place to hide out, and if it's an empty branch like this, it's a great place to catch some sunlight, and we know how important that is for reptiles. So I suspect this behavior began with him just looking for opportunities to warm up, lying on this branch, absorbing that sunlight, and then realizing that it's a good opportunity or good place for hunting opportunities. But at the end of the day, once he began to mature, and once he, because we would only really see him here, it must around November, I think, we would usually see him here. So during the wet season, I don't know why from November to April is kind of sticking in my head, but that would be the general time that we would see him during the wet season. So we know wet season is usually abundance, you know, synonymous with abundance. But during the dry season, he would have gone somewhere else and found other ways to hunt. And I think over time, those other ways to hunt may have become more convenient than coming up onto his log. So really, in essence, Monty's non-appearance on his log, I think we should take it as a sign of his maturity and him figuring out easier ways, less energy expensive ways to get his meals. So I'm going to take it as a positive that we don't see him on the branch anymore, even though we all miss him. Prairie Dog. Hi, Prairie Dog. You were, sorry, this came through a little bit earlier. You said, what a pretty view. It is a really pretty view that we were looking at before we zoomed into the log, when we had that look kind of to the right of the pan, and we could really see how the bush has changed during this dry season. It might be quite a dry season at that. The rains have come during the wet season, that is, but the previous wet season was very, very wet, and some rains arrived quite late. And it doesn't seem like it's that way this time. So the bush is changing. But now we're over at Tembe and we're watching what I think, whenever we come over to Tembe, it looks like we have the most relaxed impalas that I have ever seen. They're always spread out. Almost all of them always have their heads down. All these things that tell us that they are relaxed and pretty chilled. But I want you to pay attention to the vegetation in the area at the moment. Now, Tembe is in KwaZulu-Natal. And in KwaZulu-Natal, which is on the east coast of South Africa, and it's actually my home province. But Tembe is further north from where I was born, in KwaZulu-Natal. But the climate here is very different to the climate in the Lowveld, which is where Rosie's pan is. Oh, we also have a warthog coming in on the left there. Very nice. And that plays a big difference, or plays a big role in the difference we see in vegetation across the country. And the climate change is different across the country, I should say. I mean, I'm looking out my window now. There's not a bit of sunshine. It's all gray and there's rain, but it's winter. Whereas the majority of the country experiences no rain in winter and summer rains. But in KwaZulu-Natal, it is really, really tropical, very humid, almost uncomfortably humid. You know, when you want to get fresh air and it's just heavy? That's KwaZulu-Natal. And the humidity is a measure of the amount of moisture in the air. So a high humidity means that it can be quite easy for it to rain. But usually, high humidity is paired, or it often happens that in areas where there is high humidity, they also have high temperatures. So for it to rain, the humidity has to be high, but the dew point temperature will be the thing that actually determines whether it rains or not. So in an area like this, in Tembe, in KwaZulu-Natal, where it's hot, humid, and tropical, even though there's a lot of moisture in the air, doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of rain just because it's the dry season. But what's wonderful for the plants is that humidity, it's still moisture in the air, so they can still make use of it. You're going to get lots of dew in the morning, and that's going to be helpful to all the antelope, or the herbivores around, actually, because if they browse early in the morning, even though there may not be a whole lot of rain, so perhaps these dams and pans will get shallower, water won't be as clean, and therefore not as tasty. Even though that'll be happening, the moisture will condense on the vegetation around them, which means that if they browse nice and early in the morning, they're going to basically be satisfying a lot of their moisture requirement just because of the climate. Alright, we're over at King's Camp, and I'm going to be quiet for a few moments because these elephants are making a lot of noise. I love the position of this camera. Nice and low, which means we get to hear all these wonderful sounds. Probably one of my favorite sounds in the bush, elephants drinking. I feel joy in that sound. It sounds like joy. Okay, luckily we've lowered the volume a little bit, so it sounds like I can actually speak and I'm not competing with the enormity of the sound of elephants. For me, elephants feel like thunder. That's how big they feel. You know, when you hear thunder and you can kind of tell what direction it comes from, but it's almost everywhere. It's so big, it's so large, it's so strong. That's how elephants feel for me. They feel like thunder. And when they communicate, either at that low frequency that just kind of moves all around you, or the high frequencies that we can actually hear, it doesn't matter. It just feels so enormous to me, so thunderous. And it's an interesting thing that we, or at least for me, I find that a lot of the time it's easier for me to explain a feeling visually than it is with words. And when when I'm around elephants and they're communicating and those really low rumbles, those frequencies of sound that are below our hearing threshold, the infrasonic sound, when they communicate in that way, I said to you, it feels like it's all around at the same time. It almost seems to wrap you up. And it can feel quite intimidating because you can't just simply pick out the source of the sound. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have ever experienced, but say you're asleep at night and you hear a sound, whether it's a dripping or some random, house sound. But if you know what is making that sound, if it can connect to something in your brain, you feel fine. But if you can't figure out what is making that sound, where it is coming from, it can keep you up. Now with elephants and that low frequency sound, it's very hard to determine where it's coming from. So you can see a bunch of elephants, you know it's coming from the elephants, but you can't actually pinpoint which elephant is making that sound. And now if we think about, with that in mind, if we think about the way that sound waves move, and the way particularly that low frequency sound waves move, it makes so much sense. Low frequency sound waves are long and large, perhaps even taller than me. And high frequency sounds are very short and high frequency. Oh, we have more elephants! Yay! So when we hear that low frequency sound, the sound waves are so large that it can pass through us, well, not through us, but it can, portions of the wave can pass around us. Because it's so big, our bodies don't block the waves. And so portions of the wave, the sound wave, can go past our right shoulder, past our left shoulder, over our heads. And when you think about it like that, doesn't it kind of make sense that the sound feels like it's all around at the same time? I love experiencing those treasures in the bush, and it really is a treasure to experience those kinds of things. Katrina, you were saying earlier there when we were watching those elephants at King's Camp, what beautiful scenery. They really are some of the most majestic animals on this planet. Prairie Dog, you say, so elephantastic. Love it. Absolutely love it. This is an interesting thing that's happened here. When we arrived here at Tembo Plains in Zimbabwe, that little breeding herd was very, very still. And we could see quite obviously in what direction they were facing and which direction we thought they would move off in. But instead, they all, as a unit, and I must say as a very close, tight unit, turned around and moved in another direction. If I had seen that out in the wild, I would have noticed, one, that they're standing still, so they're paying attention to something. Usually that something is sound. It could also be smell. They have a really acute sense of smell. And on top of that, before they made the decision to turn around, they were in a very tight group. That means that they're uncomfortable. And they're trying to stick as close as possible. So all that information would say to me, I would make the assumption that they've picked up on what they perceive as a threat and then decided to move off in the other direction. But I would say that what they have picked up as a potential threat is far away, because they're not responding in any other kind of way. They're not displaying. Some of the youngsters are fairly relaxed. You could see them dust bathing a little bit. And now they've turned around to the same spot and are still, again, perhaps continuing to pick up on information about whatever caused them to turn around in the first place. But if you watch the youngsters, you can see that they look really, really chilled out. Some are still eating. Could it be a goose that has caused this problem? No. That would be one giant goose. But the goose is much closer to us than the elephants, which is why it looks that way. Like I was saying, the youngsters seemed very chilled out. You know, they're eating. Oh, look at this. Oh, this is an amazing view. We're back at King's Camp, everyone. I'm just going to close off that thought quickly so we can enjoy this. Youngsters are not the best age to collect information about potential dangers. They react quickly. They react with the herd. And even if there is a potential danger in the distance, they're only going to kind of be synced up with what the herd does. So if the herd is quiet and chilling, or quiet and alert and not reacting to something, the youngsters are going to be dust bathing and eating. That happens. So it's rather we pay attention as guides to the older individuals. Now this is a nice, big, beautiful bull. It almost looked like he looked right at us, right? And now he is frozen. Oh no, that's okay though. I almost want to take a screenshot. This is fantastic. This must be the best frozen screen I've ever seen in my life. The light is stunning. There we go, there we go. I'm speechless, everyone. Oh no, don't freeze. Oh, that was spectacular. That was so spectacular. We're back at Tembo Plains now. But my goodness, it almost looked like that elephant was eyeing us. That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, that was lovely. Mary Momo, you say, are you talking about Tembe? So Tembe is the reserve that we were just at with the impalas. The one that I said is in northern KwaZulu-Natal, the province I grew up with. And Tembo Plains is in Zimbabwe. Similar names, but different. Tembe and Tembo. So Mary Momo was saying that Tembe has changed so very much since you started watching. Lots of elephant holes and plants covering the water. Also seems like I haven't seen many elephants, giraffes, etc. as there had been a few years ago. I must let you know if you're just crazy. You know, to be honest, I don't watch the Tembe camera often enough to be able to say anything with certainty. But I have definitely noticed. Oh, we're back at King's Camp. Yes, I have definitely noticed, Mary Momo, that we've been seeing a lot of impala and a lot of overgrowth in Tembe. But like we said, or like we were speaking about earlier about the previous wet season and how wet it was and the late rains as well, that could have really affected the amount of growth in the area. And I know all those elephant holes you're talking about. Now they're all covered with grass. Oh, that was too magnificent. Too magnificent. I don't want to speak over these wonderful sounds, so I'm just going to be quiet, Mary Momo. Oh, it really looks like he noticed the camera, and it's unsurprising at all because the camera as it moves makes a kind of little sound. And off he goes. Oh, that was wonderful. But just go back to what you were saying, Mary Momo. I mean, we're out of time, but I'm just gonna talk about these two comments, yours, Mary Momo, and Tris Vissops, before we say goodbye. I totally agree that, at least from what I've experienced, Tembe has changed. I remember all those elephant holes. I remember the bareness of the ground in certain areas, but look at them now. We're back at Tembe now. Look at them. They're almost all of them are covered in grasses, and I think that's a result of the really good wet season we had previously, not the last one, but the one before. I mean, it was so good that it lasted to the wet season that just passed. Uh, what makes us think that perhaps this year will be quite a dry year, but at the end of the day, it all kind of levels out, all balances. And Tris Vesop, just before we say goodbye, says, it is believed that elephants detect the low frequency sounds with their feet. Could you also feel those sounds, Trish, with your feet? I could, actually. So I could feel a vibration if they were close enough. If I put both my feet on the ground by the pedals of the vehicle, I could definitely detect the vibrations. But obviously, my feet are not made for that, so it was just a feeling as opposed to information. And elephants use a number of things to detect those frequencies. They use their feet, they use their trunks. If you've ever seen their trunk, see them lay down their trunk on the ground. And it's all because those parts of their body, the trunk and the two front feet, if you go straight up from there, you end up in a whole auditory circuit. So it just helps to funnel that sound into an area that can take that sound and turn it into information. Anyway, everybody, it was wonderful to spend this time with all of you as usual. I'll see you again on Thursday. Continue to watch the cameras. We just seem to be growing and growing with more exciting things, and also watch the way that the bush starts to change. It was a pleasure as always, and I'll see you again soon. But goodbye for now.